As the U.S. expands its military presence in Latin America, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth declared earlier this week the Pentagon's now on a war footing. In a major speech, Hegseth called for weapons companies' executives to speed up production of weapons for the military.
Every dollar squandered on redundancy, bureaucracy, and waste is a dollar that could be used to outfit and supply the warfighter. We must wage an all-out campaign to streamline the Pentagon's process, to unshackle our people from unproductive work, and to shift our resources from the bureaucracy to the battlefield. Our objective is simple: transform the entire acquisition system to operate on a wartime footing, to rapidly accelerate the fielding of capabilities and focus on results. Our objective is to rebuild the arsenal of freedom.
We're joined now by William Hartung, co-author of the new book, The $1 Trillion War Machine: How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. Bill Hartung, a senior research fellow at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. Bill, welcome back to Democracy Now! How unprecedented is the Pentagon budget at this point, and what the military is doing? I mean, for example, even President Trump, in his executive order, renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War, although only actually Congress can officially do that.
Well, the Pentagon budget has never hit $1 trillion before, and even its most ardent supporters kind of didn't believe we would ever hit this mark. But now that they're there, all bets are off. And speeches like that by Pete Hegseth are basically saying, not only are we going to spend $1 trillion, there's not going to be rules. You know, we're not going to have independent testing of these weapons. We're not going to vet them for human rights when we export them. It was basically a gift to the arms industry. And you know, they talk about speeding it up. When it comes to weapons, speed kills.
So, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Bill, I wanted to ask you about the increasing shift in the military machine of the United States from actually troops to machines. This shift of this new defense industry that has arisen from Silicon Valley, that I guess dreams of being able to fight wars without losing any human beings and just depending on remote control, killing abilities, robots, AI. You talk about that, to what degree this has moved forward?
Well, it's definitely moving. I mean, in Washington, the two ways to make money are mention China, mention AI, or if you mention both, even better. And it's part of a long myth that technology can win wars, which didn't happen in Vietnam, didn't happen in Iraq, didn't happen with Reagan's alleged leak-proof missile defense. So, you know, they're selling kind of a bill of goods that's kind of stale. It's old ideology with new software. And they're much more aggressive than the head of like Lockheed Martin, who might say to his shareholders, oh, you know, this turbulence is going to create business for us. You know, Palmer Luckey's saying, we're going to have war with China in 2 years. We're going to bury them. We're going to have more ammunition. They're sort of acting like they're in charge of our foreign policy, and they view themselves as almost the new technological messiah. So I think their ideology and their political influence is almost as dangerous as the weapons they want us to use.
And in your book, you have an extensive discussion of the war on Gaza. And how U.S. companies have the Gaza war became big business for U.S. companies. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, well, there's this mythology in the Pentagon that sending arms is better than sending troops because our troops aren't at risk and countries will, quote, defend themselves. But of course, Israel is committed genocide in Gaza. It was not defense under any terms. And when you're sending weapons, all the money goes to the companies. You're not doing troops, you're not doing logistics. It's almost pure revenue. And, you know, when you say it's military aid to Israel, it's really military aid to Lockheed Martin and Palantir, because the money rests in Israel, comes right back to them. Palantir even had its board meeting in Israel during the Gaza war and tried to get other companies profiting from the war to be more vocal in their support of Israel. And of course, they also gave them software to accelerate the bombing. So it's one of the more shameful episodes in the history of an industry that, of course, is not based on morality. It's based on profit. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who are kind of, into tech are like, oh, these are amazing people. They put, rockets in space. It'll be cheaper and so forth. But we'll pay a big price if we put our trust in these companies. And of course, they're very much into the Trump administration, including J.D. Vance, who was groomed in Silicon Valley and is a creature of Silicon Valley and owes Peter Thiel essentially his career. When he was appointed VP, the champagne corks went off in Silicon Valley and huge amounts of money came in behind Trump. So they're trying to basically displace these huge companies like Lockheed Martin. And what the government's going to do is pay off both of them. I mean, Golden Dome is going to have, hardware by Lockheed Martin, software by, Anduril and other companies. So that just means that $1 trillion is going to be in the rearview mirror in a few years if we don't fight back and fight back hard, which means not accepting the myth of, technological superiority.
You have two fascinating chapters in this book: the militarization of American science, buying the ivory tower, and capturing the media, how propaganda powers the war machine. Talk about both.
Well, this move towards AI and advanced tech means they need the university folks more, because Lockheed Martin doesn't have those kind of people. They're prized now, and so they're doing much more recruiting, sending much more money. Johns Hopkins gets $1 billion a year to work on things like ballistic missiles, but the average student there wouldn't know it. The lab is 40 miles away. They're occupied with other things. Berkeley helps run a nuclear weapons lab. If you walked into a student on the quad, likewise, they would not know that. So they're accelerating that, and also the pipeline from engineering students into the weapons industry. And the media, well, between vetting Hollywood scripts, spokespersons from think tanks funded by the weapons industry, just the framing. Very few outlets now really do deep critiques of the military. And then on top of that, they're not covering it. Some papers don't even have a Pentagon reporter anymore, so they just print up the Pentagon press release, and then paragraph 32, somebody like Bill Hartung makes a little quote so they can say they're being balanced. But the whole framing is pro-military, and there's this notion that if something happens in the world, if we don't respond with the military, we're quote unquote not doing anything. Of course, whenever we do it, it's disastrous. I mean, you have a member saying, oh, peace through strength. Well, we haven't won a war in this century. We've caused immense harm. We've spent $8 trillion. We've got troops with PTSD in the hundreds of thousands who are not taken care of. And yet that myth persists. So I think it's kind of a cultural, educational task that has to happen, as well as, pulling back the amount of money we're throwing at these companies.
And Bill, you begin your book by citing Trump's 2024 campaign speech in Wisconsin, where he pledged to end endless wars. But ultimately, as you point out, Trump wasn't very different from Biden on many of these metrics. They both turned out to be staunch supporters of the U.S. war machine. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, well, Trump uses that tool when needed. Like when he beat Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton over the head about Iraq, which of course he did not oppose when it was happening. And I think this stuff about war profiteering is a message to those parts of his base who are sick of corporate welfare, sick of war. Some have even voted for him because they believed this idea that he was going to be less interventionist. But here we are, blowing innocent people out of the water off of Venezuela, continuing to arm genocide in Gaza, giving away the store to these companies. We'll give you money. We won't regulate you. You'll get to do pretty much what you want. In his first term, he did a similar thing until he cozied up to Saudi Arabia to sell them record amounts of arms and then claimed they were job creators in the United States. So he really views the arms industry as a political ally, and he's not going to go after them in any big way. But every once in a while, he'll lapse into that, or at least says we have too many nuclear weapons. But there's no evidence in his policy. In fact, they're increasing spending on nuclear weapons. So it's he's erratic, but there is a political purpose, which is just to keep that part of his base that's skeptical of war, feeling like he maybe will do something about it.
Before we end, I wanted to ask you about Axios yesterday reporting Israel seeking a new 20-year security agreement with the United States, while the past agreement promised Israel around $4 billion per year in military aid, and Israel's likely to seek at least that much going forward.
Well, yeah, they want to be kind of a permanent client of the United States and for us to pay for their aggression. And, you know, the current one that runs out had a few little things they didn't like. Like they used to be able to spend U.S. military aid to build up their own arms industry. That was supposed to come to an end. It certainly will be waived if it's negotiated under the Trump administration. So basically, they're going to, if they do that, they're permanently tying themselves to whatever Israel does in the region. For example, when Israel bombed Iran, while the U.S. was supposed to be, negotiating with them, Trump followed right behind with bombings and false claims about how they'd obliterated Iran's nuclear program. He even, chided some of his own people for acknowledging that that was not the case. So it's one of the worst moves that could be made. It's tying us to an archaic, damaging, destabilizing policy and egging on the worst forces in Israel. So I'm hoping there'll be some pushback. The problem is these deals are often done behind closed doors.
And Bill, one more question about this. In this trade war between the United States and China, the issue of rare earths has continued to come up as a major weakness of the U.S. Military establishment and also obviously in other industry as well. How big an issue do you think this is and a weakness for the United States?
Well, it goes against their notion that they can create this self-sufficient garrison state, because it's a global economy and they can't do everything here. They don't have every resource, don't have every technical kind of expertise. So this idea that they're going to have this perfect system, all controlled by the United States, is a pipe dream. Even at the most dominant moments of the United States in history, we were never completely self-sufficient. So Trump is actually, he's selling a bill of goods that is not possible to actually fulfill, which of course is happening in other spheres as well, but is more dangerous when you're talking about peace and security.
Bill Hartung, I want to thank you for being with us, Senior Research Fellow at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. His new book, co-authored with Ben Freeman, is just out, The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.